Today we're looking at fake or faux calligraphy, which is my second handwriting tutorial. We're going to start out by just doing regular linking lettering. So I'm going to write basic hand lettering in my normal linking handwriting. I want to encourage you to pull out a scrap piece of paper and write as I write during the video. If you're not up to where I'm up to next, just pause the video and then go back to it when you're up to the next part. Alternatively, if it's going way too slow for you, just skip forward to the next part. Hand lettering and anything, drawing, is all about practice, so the more you do it, the better you'll get. Now that we've got our writing down, how we make it into fake calligraphy is by going back and fattening up all the down strokes. So think about when your pen will go downwards while you're writing the letter, and everywhere your pen goes in a downward motion, you just thicken up. So it kind of looks almost like a block letter in the places that the strokes of the pen go downwards. I really like beginning with the thinnest pen I can, so when I do thicken the downward strokes, there's a huge contrast between the thickened strokes and the parts that aren't thickened. I think this makes it look a lot more like calligraphy. And once you've finished thickening all the downward strokes, just go back and then colour them all in. I'm going to speed it up as I just colour in the letters. So that's the most basic style of fake calligraphy. The second example we're going to do, we're just going to add some flourishes to the start and the end of it. So I'm just going to do little wave-like flourishes, and this time for my B I'm going up to make it a little curly, just to make it look a bit fancier. The prettier your regular linking handwriting, the prettier your fake calligraphy writing will be. So again, for the H I did a little fancy flourish. I will go over later in the video how I do simple flourishes with my lettering. So just like the first example, just go along all the downward strokes and fatten up the downward strokes only. I'm going to slightly speed up the video as I do this. And again, you just go back and colour in all those parts that you thickened up. I'm just going to write the word basic one more time before I move on. And this time I've done little curls instead of waves for my flourish before the lettering. You can do whatever you want for your little flourish before the lettering. And again, I just go back and I fatten up all the parts that are a downward stroke. This time I'm colouring it in as I go. They already look quite nice by themselves, but a way that I think really makes them stand out and look even more beautiful is to leave a little space of white around them in your Bible journal and to paint or colour in with whatever you're colouring with around the rest of it. Leaving that bit of white really makes it stand out. Alright, so now I'm going to go over some of the trickier letters that you may come across with hand lettering. The first is the fancy F. To me this doesn't even look much like an F, but it's actually really pretty when you make it a part of your hand lettering. I'm just going to show you faith with the fancy F and faith with the normal F, and afterwards I'll show you how to actually write that F. Again, I'm using the same techniques that I did in the first examples, fattening up the downstrokes and then colouring them in. Okay, so the fancy F. So that's a regular F. The fancy F kind of goes up in a curve and then a back around, kind of like a B. So then we just fatten up the strokes and that's that. I'm going to show you how to draw that F again one more time. So again, we start at the bottom, go upwards in a curve, go round like a B, and then out to join to the next letter. And then again, for the fake calligraphy technique, I make it into a thicker letter on the downward stroke and colour that in. So I suggest you pause the video and practice writing that F a couple of times, and then move on. We're going to look at the T. The T is actually pretty simple and similar to a normal T. So here we have a normal T, whereas the pretty calligraphy T is just lengthening the stroke across. You can either lengthen it to the left or to the right. So I'll show you both ways, and then thicken it up like normal and colour it in. As you can see in the word faith up the top, lengthening it kind of just makes the word look a bit prettier with that flourish that fills up the gap above the A and the I. Strangest letters for me in cursive or calligraphy writing is the R. This has a kind of a loop if you're joining it to another word, and then down. Doesn't even look like an R, maybe backwards. So I'll show you it without joining, so you can just go a little bit across and down. Kind of like a 7, I would say. And then just fatten it up again like we do with the calligraphy technique. I'll also show you what that R looks like in a word. So I'm going to write fear, because then we can practice that F and use that R as well. So we're just going to start with that F again, going upwards in a loop like a B kind of, coming out into an E because we're writing fear, an A, and then the funny R with a loop and then down. There we go. And then we're just going to fatten up the words like normal and colour it in. It might be a good idea to pause the video and write out the word fear a couple of times just to get used to that F and that R. Next, I'm going to look at how you can make the letters that go upwards above the centre line prettier, so such as D, B, those kind of letters. They're in calligraphy terms called ascenders. They have ascenders going above the centre line, but yeah, I'm going to show you how you can make them a bit fancier. So the first thing we're going to do is just add loops. So going up with the D but coming down a little bit to make a loop. Same thing for the B. Same kind of process for the H, apart from we go across to make the H, and then L is just a little loop at the top. Adding these loops is probably one of the easiest ways to make your lettering look prettier. So again, like normal, I'm going back and fattening up all the downward strokes to make it look like calligraphy. Another way you can make your ascending letters prettier is by putting the loop at the top of the letter. So this time I'm just going to do a little loop in the air, come down, and then create the D. I'm going to use the same method for the B, loop in the ear, come down and create a B, loop in the ear, an H, and loop in the ear, an L. Now this doesn't have to stop here, that little loop. You could have done a huge flourish out the side going to the left of that letter to fill up the spaces above the lowercase letters, or you could just do a simple loop like that. Again, I'm going back and I'm fattening up the sides of the letters of the downstroke and colouring them in. Last technique I'm going to show you for the ascending letters is a little hook at the top. So this is a pretty simple way. So a little hook and then a D, a little hook and then a B. Same method for the H, a little hook and then an H, and a little hook for the L. And you can fatten that up. So that's 3 different ways you can make the letters that go upwards prettier with calligraphy. Next I'm going to show you the downward letters or the descending letters such as G and Y. Recycling, so I'm turning over another piece of paper to show you the G and the Y. So for the first one, you just make the G or the Y link up to the next letter. I'm going to write the word great so you can practice writing the R and the T. So just going down up to the next letter, which is an R, going into the E, the A, doing a line for the T, and then I'm going to do a long across part of the T. So if I show you that G one more time, we're just going down like a normal G and flicking up and colouring in the downward strokes. The Y is very similar to the G, just down and straight back up, and I'm going into the word yellow, so I'm doing loopy L's, and a pretty O. So that's one way you can use the descending letters, just going straight back up to link into the next letter. I'm going to also show you that pretty O I did. It's pretty simple. You just go around from the center and then loop into the next letter. I'm going to do more of a flourish on this one. I'm going to write grand so I can practice the R again. When I'm going to do a big flourish, I like to just leave that for the end and write the whole word first. So I'm just going to start a G, but it's going to kind of look like an A for now because I'm going into the rest of the word. So I'll put in my fancy calligraphy R, A, N, and then a calligraphy loopy D. Now that I've got that down, I can see how long I want the flourish. So I'm going to go back and do a kind of figure eight downwards and then back like a figure eight and do a little love heart at the bottom of it. I'm going to go back, of course, and fatten up all the downward strokes. I'm not going to fatten up the actual flourish though. I think it looks better when it's actually still thin. So I'm just going to thicken up all the letters. I'm going to show you a similar thing with a Y, which in this case will look like a U until I'm finished with it. I'm going to write out the word Yongo, which is actually my last name. So I'm going to come back to the Y, so at the moment it looks like a U. I did the fancy O. I've got a G, but I want to do the flourish on my Y, so I'm just going to do a regular G like above that links up to my next letter. And I'm going to do a similar figure eight style flourish, but this time I'm going to go one more and make it a little bit longer. So we go downwards, a figure eight, and then I'm going to go back and finish it like that. I'm just going to speed it up again as I add the thicken parts to the letters. Okay, so now I'm going to just show you the G by itself. We go around, figure eight, back around. I'm just going to keep on going and then do a heart. So for the Y, I'm going to do a simpler flourish where I just go around and back like a figure eight. You can also do extended flourishes on ascending letters such as the H. So I'm going to start with the loop like we did before, and then I'm going to go back and just add to the flourish. So I'm just going to do some little swirls. Now I'm just going to show you a couple of examples of fake calligraphy in my actual Bible journal entries. I hope you liked the video. Let me know if the video was too fast, too slow, or let me know how you go at using this technique. Thanks for watching.